this is the first single you put out for the album. Now, besides, I mean, this is really catchy, so it was a good pick to kind of start off with. But with this song in particular, I know I mentioned the influence, which I heard. What was your idea behind this song? Was this one of the songs that just said, you know what, I just want to rock out here, but not too hard? You kind of like
that was essentially it. Like I started playing live in like June last year, and I realized like the sets we didn't really have like a rock out type of song. So I actually had just been jamming this riff like for ages, just like playing like guitar solos and stuff over. And I'm like, why don't I turn this into a song? So that's kind of how it came out, because I really felt like in the live shows, a lot of the more upbeat ones from the first album, like Crew Mammals and like Year of the Flood, those ones went over really well. Well, some of the slower ones were kind of hit or miss. Oh. So in that kind of sense, I thought I needed some more like upbeat stuff to keep kind of pushing it was mostly for the live show, to be completely honest.
No, and fair enough, and it's a good point, because it's it's hard sometimes to kind of, we'll call it, command the crowd, you know, I mean, like keeping their interest and that sort of thing. And yeah, some bands, they're going to have some mellow songs, but just like you said, they can be hit and miss, because you just never know what kind of crowd you're gonna get, right? And that's what makes it interesting, but it makes it more of a challenge for you as well. Is like, not only are some of these people hearing you for the first time, but some people haven't heard you, period. So now you're trying to kind of actually obviously gain them as a fan and as a listener to your music. But it's gotta be a fun challenge though, because like I've said to many bands, and obviously they all agree, is when you're on a live stage, you have a bit more freedom to move around.
Yeah, for sure.
So I can definitely see that. So with the different titles along this song titles on this album, kind of on the same path as Glacier, meaning they're kind of different, and they kind of stick together but not quite. I mean, the two I can tie in as far as title names go is Frontier Town and Blackfoot.
Yeah,
because they kind of remind me of the Frontier Town. I just automatically think of, you know, like the Old West in the 1800s, right? So
yeah.
And Blackfoot kind of fits in there because it's either the name of, let's say, like a trail or an old town, right?
Yeah. I took a lot of the song titles are actually names of ghost towns throughout North America. So I kind of use that as like the backdrop for the writing on this song. It's a lot of the lyrics are from like me taking like the perspective of someone, like looking back on their experiences in these ghost towns. So you're right to see the connection between them.
That's really cool, because I wouldn't have thought. I was just kind of, like I said, that's how it sounded to me. I was kind of guessing it might be like an old town. So like, well, I was.
Hey, you're on the right track.
Well, I'm
glad to know.
I'm actually very proud of myself right now. So.
Yours on a pat on the back.
Yeah. But you know what? Running from that perspective, Jeff, has got to be a lot of fun, because like I really into that sort of thing, like the Old West, because there's so many different stories, and when you see these, like, I mean, obviously you got your spaghetti westerns, but those are kind of just essentially for fun, you know. It's kind of sort of what happened, but not really. But just seeing the old kickbacks of what happened, like Tombstone and that whole thing, and just, you know, some of them are a bit more interesting than they are now. But yeah, there's some towns where just like, I know some of them I think are probably have set up for tours, but they're just like ready to kind of collapse on themselves.
Yeah, it's pretty. I don't know why I got into it. I just like started reading about these old like ghost towns, and I got like really involved, as you could tell, because I ended up writing songs about them. But yeah, like Frontier Town was like an old amusement park to teach like American history. Like,
oh wow, I didn't know that one.
No, yeah, it's just so like I found like I tried to find like towns with like interesting stories that. Because I'm like a history major in school, so I guess that's kind of where the connection came from.
Now, have you visited any of these towns, or are there any plans to? Just because, like,
no, I haven't visited them, but I would want to, especially like Bodie. Bodie is in California, like Northern California, so I think that's probably possible.
Oh, right on, man. That's one thing that. Interests me is too. I'm not a history major by any means. I'm never going to claim to be, but but at the same time too is like, you know, there's still the history that you want to visit, and that's one of the things. Like, top of my bucket list is I want to do like before I kick, man, I want to do the night tour at Alcatraz.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
I did that. That's with all the stuff I've seen, like documentaries and stuff like that. Like I really want to do it. Just for the kind of psych yourself out, kind of scare factor, right? No, there's still
Yeah.
kind of ghosts lingering around Alcatraz and blah blah. It's like, well, let's see if there really are. Is my mind gonna play a trick on me, or am I actually gonna see something here? You know?
Yeah.
So, all right. So, back to the album. Actually, the next song we're gonna get to, since we kind of made the connection right there, is we're gonna start up with Frontier Town. So here's Western Jaguar, Frontier Town.
Take a walk through time and space. Even brilliant minds couldn't save this place. Town hall sessions attended by no one but ghosts of Christmas past. If these walls could talk, they'd have a million stories and a million tragic tales. And the lights go down on this frontier town. And the lights go down on this frontier town.
Right on. That was Frontier Town off of Wayfarer. Now this is probably like my favorite song on the album, and this one in particular, I like the last like little bit with we'll call it the harmonies and the piano, and I just when you say when the lights go down in this frontier town, it pretty much paints the entire picture of what someone would picture a frontier town to be, especially a ghost town.
Yeah.
Because once go ahead.
Well, I would. Yeah, this is probably my favorite track on the album too, because I just kind of like how it like starts very minimal and then like builds and slowly adds, and then at the end you got like this fury of like vocals and blazing guitars and piano, and like I actually wasn't even gonna have like harmonies at the end of the song, like those background vocals.
Right.
But this is like something that came out of the studio. Like I was in there with some of my friends, and one of my friends, Jamie, she was like, "Why don't we do harmonies here to like give it more power?" And we're like, "Okay." So we like kind of just wrote them on the spot and recorded it really quickly, and then it became like this big. It's like the power in that last half of the song. So.
Well, you know what, man, it does really stand out, and I guess you can call it somewhat of a happy accident just because of the way it came about. Now, the one thing that I will
exactly.
Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, and I was just gonna say that's something that like wouldn't happen like if I just recorded it at my house, because I wouldn't have been able to bounce ideas off each other. So that's kind of like something that was shifted with recording it outside of just me being a part of it.
It's what makes music sometimes, because I mean it's always nice to have to bounce your ideas off of people. But the one thing this does remind me, and I'm blanking on the song. I know I can hear the tune in my head, but I can't remember the name of the song. But your vocals in this one, Jeff, specifically, really remind me of a song off Radiohead's Amnesiac.
Oh yeah.
And okay. I wish I could remember the song, and I'll probably remember it before the end of the show. If not, once we're done here, I'll have a quick listen and I'll text you with the song.
Okay.
But because it's gonna bother me. But either way. It's that's what it really reminds me of is I think it might be the first track off Amnesiac. Either way, that's what the vocals remind me of, the piano and the drums all mixed into one, because it's still got that kind of experimental feel to it.
Yeah.
So this song in particular, Frontier Town, was when did how can I phrase this? I'm trying to think so it actually makes sense. It doesn't sound like a rambling here. So when you wrote the album out, what order was the song initially, like when you wrote it?
Like where was I gonna place it in like track list?
Yeah.
Well, initially I was just gonna release Council and Frontier Town as like a 2-song EP.
Okay.
But as the album kept growing, I was actually going to put this at the last song on the album. But then I felt like most people, if they're just listening to you casually in Bandcamp or whatever, they're not going to like take the time to go all the way down to like the bottom track. So for that reason, I kind of put it up right before Shores, which I felt was kind of like the transition middle piece of the album that kind of like breaks up the first half and the second half.
Okay.
So I felt it was still kind of in like this concluding section to like the first half of what I was trying to do.
Oh, fair enough. It's always interesting to me to see how these songs are arranged, because I mean I know it's got to be, in some instances it's got to be difficult, just because just finding the perfect flow, even though all the songs you've written that they sound good, but trying to put them together so they kind of flow the way you want them to. So let's say if it's like kind of like, well, minimal peak, and then minimal peak again, or however it's arranged, it's got to be a bit of a challenge sometimes. But the fact that you arranged it the way you did, as even as far as the song tells, I mean, it essentially tells a story, which is really cool, because sometimes that's a conscious decision, sometimes it's a subconscious decision.
Yeah, it's definitely very conscious for me. I lose a lot of sleep over song order. Because I know, like, I left out